Welcome to EPG Pathashala. I am K. Rajan from the Department of History, Pondicherry University. Today, our subject matter is on Indian culture. The paper which we are dealing today is on art and architecture of India. And the module that is on Pallava and Paṇḍya paintings. The reason for selecting the Pallava Paṇḍya painting is both are contemporary in nature. That's why we have clubbed this Paṇḍya and Pallava dynasty together. The purpose of this paper or the module is that to know about the introduction of mural paintings in Tamil Nadu, to understand the theme and technique involved in the execution of these paintings, to understand evolutionary process involved in the paintings, to estimate the impact of Pallava paintings in other parts of Tamil Nadu. That means we are having an impact in Paṇḍya dynasty. So, of these two paintings, let us take Pallava paintings first. The Pallavas ruled the Tamil Nadu between 6th and 9th century AD in Thondai Mandalam, that means northern part of Tamil Nadu, is considered as one of the important cultural changes witnessed in the Tamil society, particularly in the field of art and architecture. Not only in the field of art and architecture, though they introduced the rock-cut cave temples, cut-out monolithic temples, and construction of structural monuments, execution of mural paintings, foundation of devotional what we call bhakti hymens or sects of Alvars and Nayarmars, the establishment of rural Brahmanical institutions of Sanskrit learning, the creation of bhakti literature in vernacular language, that is what we call the whole of India, when they are all the bhakti literatures in Sanskrit and only the Pallava kingdom we had the bhakti literature in vernacular language, that is called in Tamil. Then relationship based on the ritual purity and the establishment of Chakravartin model of kingship, what they call Devaraja cult, over a territory of diverse people are considered as a hallmark of Pallava rule. This Pallava rule also deviation from the Jain and Buddhist tradition to Hindu tradition. So, as you well aware, they have already constructed three type of monuments. One is rock-cut cave temples, and second one is monolithic temples, and third one is structural temples. The same thing we could see in Paṇḍya dynasty also. The rock-cut cave temple at Mandakapattu, the Thalagirishvara temple at Panamalai, and Kailasanatha temple at Kanchipuram. These three temples yielded the paintings, the early wall paintings are what we call mural traditions. The application of pigments, the paintings made of inorganic material, as one we noticed in Ajanta paintings, on the walls of the rocky surface to create visual representation is an event in India dates back to Middle Paleolithic time. The famous Bhimbetha painting, you would have heard it. So, from the time of Middle Paleolithic until Vijayanagara times, we are having beautiful paintings in the walls of the temples. Since then, the art of painting from the Middle Paleolithic time onwards was practiced in several media right through the centuries. These mural paintings or wall paintings are found in the ancient literature, what popularly called as Sangam literature. The Sangam literature, Patinappalai, Madurai Kanji and Nedunal Vadai give vivid picture on the existence of paintings on the walls of palaces and Jaina Palli, what they call Amanar Palli. There is a reference of Paṇḍya king known as Chitramadathu Tunjiya Nanmaran, meaning the king Nanmaran who died in the painted pavilion of Chitramadam, that is mentioned in the Sangam literature Purananur. In Paripadal, it is a late Sangam literature or what we call post-Sangam literature. The poets Kundram Bodhanar and Nappannanar provide graphic reference on the paintings executed on the walls of the Mandapa, what they popularly call Eluthu Nilai Mandapam. Here, the Eluthu stands for painting of a Murugan temple at Tirumbaragundram, where we are having a beautiful rock-cut cave. So, the murals in Sangam or the post-Sangam period, there are several terms have been used, such as Kannul Vinayar, Vallon, and Ovian, and Vittahar to denote a painter. And in the same way, Ovam or Ovium or Chitram were used to denote paintings. One of the epics, that post-Sangam epics, Mani Mehalai, gives a reference on Ovia Chennul, a treatise on the theory and practice of painting. Though this Ovia Chennul is not available today, but it's the very reference of this literature clearly shows that there was a painting during the time. The art of painting was admired, and the good paintings were equated with beautiful women in many of the literature. The graceful woman is known as Oviyappavai or Punaya Oviyam. These references are clearly points to the existence and the continuity of the painting tradition from the time of prehistoric. In the early medieval times, the aesthetic and auspicious values of the murals, what we call Bitti Chitra. Bitti means wall, the Chitra is painting. So, wall painting is generally called as Bitti Chitra. Developed manifold due to the construction of religious monuments or temples, palaces, noblemen's houses, courtesans' residences, and dwelling of the masses. So, among the religious edifices, the Buddhist chaityas and viharas excavated in the Deccan area were vividly painted, and the murals of Ajanta are undoubtedly the foremost one. The paintings noticed in the earliest rock-cut cave temple at Badami, the cave number 3 in Karnataka, executed by the early Chalukyan king Mangalesha, and the painting noticed in the Jain temple at Chittanavasal, again executed by the Paṇḍyas near Pudukkottai in Tamil Nadu, is almost considered as the tradition of the Ajanta paintings. In the case of Pallava mural traditions, as we have seen in these 3 temples at Thalagarishwara and Panamalai and Kanjipuram, these murals are noticed in the walls of the Kailasana temple at Kanjipuram, as we have told you. Then Thalagarishwara temple at Panamalai, both built by the Narasimhavarman II. The provided an ample scope for understanding the murals of the Pallava times. The Pallava king Mahendravarman and Narasimhavarman II played a greater role in the creation of paintings on the walls of their monuments. Mahendravarman I himself called as Vichitra Chitta, that means a curious-minded person. And again, he is also known as Chitrakara Puli, a tiger among the painters. It clearly shows his inclination towards the painting. The first title he might have probably, that Vichitra Chitta, might have attained on the creation of rock-cut cave temples for the first time in Tamil Nadu for the Hindu gods Brahma, Ishvara and Vishnu at Mandakapattu, where his inscription is clearly depicted. The second title, Chitrakara Puli, is definitely bestowed upon for his love towards paintings. Among the three temples, what we have seen at Panamalai and this Kailasanatha temple, these Kailasanatha temple paintings are very famous. It's built by Rajasimha, the Narasimhavarman II, who also constructed the temple at Mahabalipuram, the famous Shore temple. And his son, Mahendravarman III, has actually completed this Kailasanath temple at Kanchipuram. The Pallava inscription praising the Rajasimha or the Narasimhavarman II in 12 verses engraved outside the main shrine of this temple. The Kannada inscription of Chalukyan king Vikramaditya II also engraved on the wall on the Mandapa pillar. So this is the Kailasanath temple, and you could see that a Vimana in the background raised above the Shantam Shantorium, and in the front you are having a Gopura just emerging. In a Shore temple we have seen that the elevation is little low, and in this Kailasana temple it has been raised little high, so that this Gopura concept has developed from these temples. And you could see that on the small or big temples, the Prahara wall, on the top of the Prahara wall, we are having a Shikara on, and it is all written in a Dravidian architectural style. This Kailasanath temple, the inner wall or inner side of the Prahara wall, extended a series of miniature shrines. So, this Dvitava Vimana adorning with the sculptures of Saivist and Vaishnavite. So, all along this inner side of the Prahara wall, we are having a miniature shrines. In these miniature shrines, we are having excellent paintings. So, the Kailasanatha temple is one of the largest temple complex of the Pallavas and one of the largest painting complex of the Pallava times. The 4-story temple is essentially a square Vimana with octagonal Griva and Shikara. The Aditala of the main Vimana has double wall, and that's why it is called Sandara type. When you are having a Pradakshinapada going around a Shantam Shantorium, that is called Sandara type. If you are not having a Pradakshinapada, if it has the Shantam Shantorium is consist of a single wall structure, then it is called as Nirandara type. So, this space in between the outer wall and the inner wall of the Aditala is roofed by flat slabs on which rests the superstructure. The Garbhagriha has a Somaskanda panel on its rear wall, and the Shantam has a Dharalinga in a black stone. All along the inner faces of the Prahara are built a series of 58 small Dvitala Vimanas, all except 2 being square and of the Kuda type. So, this is the unique feature of this Kailasanath temple. The inside the Prahara wall, we are having a series of Dvitala Vimanas in which we are having a paintings. The cells of the many of these Dvitala Vimana or the temples has traces of old paintings on plain wall. The Archaeological Survey of India superintending archaeologist P.S. Sriraman, who examined the paintings, classified them all into 4 groups. The first group of paintings, according to him, is characterized by a ground consist of thick plaster. The main theme portrayed is predominantly individual deities or gods such as Shiva and Brahma. The representation of God is tightly composed in the available rectangular frame. The background visible over the shoulder of the individual figure or the deity is allocated with a motif of arch. So, running around the head of the deity or the god from one shoulder to another shoulder, this arc is running really from one shoulder to another shoulder. The background gap between the head and the arch is invariably filled with the green pigment. Very interestingly, the gaps are filled with the green pigment. The area outside the arch is filled with red pigment. So this contrast makes this painting so beautiful. The fly whiskers or chowri bearers are generally depicted on either side of the figure on the red background. The pigments of the paintings were chosen with a shade of pattern. The red and yellow color used for the figures, whereas the green was used exclusively for the background. A common feature of this group is that thick lines were drawn in brown ochre and the color pigments were applied so roughly that they either overflowed the lines or did not fill the indented area. There is evidence to show that a thin layer of lime plaster applied over the earlier ones, irrespective of its good condition, and were painted again. These are classified as Group 2 paintings. The cell 27 carry a complete figure seated in a Sukhasana posture on a throne with a massive backrest. The right leg hanging down and rested on a Padapita, while the left is bent and placed on the seat. The front right hand is in Chin Mudra. The rear right hand holds a rosary. The figure is well adorned with neck and arm ornaments. There are two fly whiskers flanking on either side. The red pigment predominates other colors, which includes green for the background and the shades of brown and white for the precious stones in the ornaments and furnitures. So the painting was in good state of preservation as on today we could see at Kailasana temple at Mahalipuram. The second layer belonging to group 2 was executed over it. That's why P.S. Sriraman assumed that this is group 2 paintings. The second superimposed layer could not stick to the ground properly. So as I told you, students, we are having a series of painting, 4 groups of paintings, and among them I have explained so far that first group of paintings. How they have decided the second group of painting is, it's based on the superimposition on the first layer of paintings. Therefore, now this second group of paintings is preserved in patches over the underlying the first group of paintings. Though the theme involved in the latter layer could not be identified due to poor preservation. When compared with the first layer and the second layer is not well preserved, whereas the first layer is well preserved. So, the available patches of the second group of painting suggest that they are different from the earlier layer. The other pieces of comparatively well preserved paintings are the Dakshinamurti in cell number 26 and Brahma in cell number 28. In the second group of paintings, the characteristic feature of this group of paintings is that the sketch of the intended theme is drawn in brown ochre over a thick and smoothly finished lime plaster. A layer of fine lime plaster of silky consistency is then applied over the lines. On this layer, the final lines is in brown ochre are redrawn faithfully following the original lines. As per the theme and the scheme of lines, the pigments like mostly yellow, red to bright orange and green are used. In case of paintings of this group executed over the paintings of group 1, the preparation of ground and drawing of baseline was avoided as the background was already prepared by the earlier group. Instead, a thin layer of finely ground line plaster is directly applied over the previous painting. Then the lines are drawn and pigments applied according to the chosen theme and composition. This group of paintings applied directly over the surface is comparatively well preserved than the one applied over the earlier paintings. The themes adopted over the group 1 paintings are difficult to ascertain as the painted layer of group 2, the superimposition layer, has fallen completely, leaving behind the fragments still clinging or into or on the bottom of the earlier layer. The paintings applied directly over the surface, mostly representing Somaskanda as we can see in Pallava art. These are well preserved in the 3 cells, number 23, 41 and 43. The Somaskanda panel depicted in cell number 23, the pigment layer over Uma, Skanda and part of Shiva and Vishnu alone are well preserved. In the remaining portion, only the underlying sketch is visible, providing a chance to conclude that the overhead pigmented layer faithfully followed the original sketch. The beauty of Uma's position or posture is something extraordinary. In cell number 41, the line sketch of Somaskanda figure is partly preserved and red ochre was filled uniformly over Skanda. In cell number 43, Vishnu is shown holding a dish with colorful flowers. The third group of paintings, when compared with the other 2 groups, all the cells of this temple are relieved either with a bas relief sculpture of Somaskanda or a king and a queen. At several points of time, they were covered with layers of colored stucco. The colors were applied over a coat of very thin, finely grounded lime paste. The painting of these groups are marked by the use of a blue pigment, which is rarely seen in earlier paintings of Tamil Nadu. So, the blue color is introduced in a later period. The blue pigment or the blue color was used in the background to highlight the figures. The range of other pigments used in this group of paintings is yellow to red, while the building lines or the bounding lines or the covering lines as usual are in dark brown. Green was as usual used for filling colors or filling the circular designs in pedestal and in the jewelry. It is very difficult to ascribe this painting to any time bracket, but similar bold lines in dark brown were carved without reliefs of Vishnu and Brahma. The Somaskanda panels were carved without the reliefs of Vishnu and Brahma, as we told earlier. However, these figures were introduced in the background in paintings to make the panel complete. The details are very much similar to other Somaskanda sculptures of the Pallava period. So, dear student, this Somaskanda panel is one of the unique features of Pallava art. Either it is in a sculptural panel or in a painting, this Somaskanda panel is clearly used in the rear wall of the temples. So, the linga, or what the worshipping linga, has not been installed in the early Pallava temples. So it seems that the Somaskanda panel predominate the scene of early Pallava art. In the same way, the fourth group of paintings are merely sketches in different shades of ochre, like a red, brown, and orange, on thick lime plastered ground. In cell 25 and 34, the sketches are drawn in a clustered fashion, one overlapping the other, indicating that they were executed at different times and not conforming to any common theme. It looks as if the painters had tried their hand as a lead up to the drawing main pieces. The cell 9 is important as the sketches are drawn after applying different layers of finely ground lime laid one over the other. The cell number 17 contains a sketch of a beautiful face of a royal figure with a disarming smile. Interestingly, this was drawn on the stone surface itself, with another layer of painting done above it. In the cell number 25, on the southwestern corner of the cell, a brilliant face of a royal person and a playful Gana are shown. The cell number 34 contains the sketch of Mahapurusha as identified by Sivarama Murthy, the former director of Indian Museum. So, if you take three temples as a student, I would like to again emphasize that there is a Kailasanatha temple at Kanchipuram, Thalagirishwara temple again at Panamalai, and these two temples are having beautiful paintings. The east facing Thalagirishwara temple at Panamalai was built by Narasimhavarman II, the Rajasimha, the man who constructed the Kailasanath temple as well as the shore temples, at the top of hillock overlooking a massive irrigation tank. It is essentially square on plan, both its base and talas. The Aditala has similar or smaller oblong shrines with cells attached to the middle of the southern, western, and northern side over the corresponding offset extension of Adhisthana. The fragments of paintings are preserved on the walls of the northern sanctum, probably the sole representation of otherwise well decorated temple. It depicts the great Samhara Tandava of Shiva with all the 8 arms in movement, with one of the left hand stretched vertically upwards. This many have taken to be Lalata Tilaka posture. Many of the scholars, since the left hand is stretched vertically upward, they felt that it is a Lalata Tilaka posture. Similar Samhara Tandava posture is observed in the Kailasanath temple at Kanchipuram also. On the main wall of the shrine, Parvati is witnessing this magnificent performance, depicting Parvati in an extremely relaxed posture while watching the cosmic dance of Shiva is also seen in Amaravati sculptures and also in Ajanta and Chola paintings. The colors in this fragment are vibrant. Interestingly, blue was used as filler, as we have seen in Kailasanath temple. Red used for tinting the matted hair of Shiva is simply a brilliant execution. The shading of Shiva's or Devi's face is in mild green, resulting in the desired result. The lines are rhythmically flowing, definitely representing the work of a master painter. The use of arches in the background indicates that this painting may be coeval with group 1 of Kailasada temple because the arch is running shoulder to shoulder as we noticed at Kanchipuram, and therefore it belongs to the earliest phase of Pallava paintings. Though meagerly preserved, the remains of the Pallava murals seen at the above mentioned temples strongly reflect the momentum in mural activity. This could not have been possible but for the strong patronage of the rulers. Secondly, the quality of lines and treatment of colors indicate a very high standard, and the technique is completely different to that of Ajanta, which clearly indicates the painters of Ajanta had a very limited role to play here. So there are, as I told you, students, there are two type of paintings. Both are contemporary. There is no much difference between the Pallava paintings and the Paṇḍya paintings. The Pallavas, who are occupying the northern part of Tamil Nadu up to the southern Vellar, that means near Pudukkottai region, and the people who are occupying the south of the Vellar and these up to Kanyakumari, they were the Paṇḍya rulers. Literally speaking, there is no much difference between the Pallava painting and Paṇḍya painting because both are contemporary in nature. These Paṇḍyas who re-established their kingdom after the Sangam age Paṇḍyas, after overthrowing the Kalabras according to the Velvikudi copper plate under Kadungon, the famous Paṇḍya king, sometime in the 6th century AD. As contemporary to the Pallavas, the later Paṇḍyas excavated many rock-cut cave temples in the region south of river Kaveri. Though their mutual or interest or the mural paintings are limited in nature to the rock-cut cave temples excavated at Chittanavasal near Pudukkottai, dedicated to Jain centers, or carries the excellent mural paintings of the Paṇḍyas. The cave temple known as Arivar Koil, because of this Jain connection, is dedicated to the Hargats, that means Jain. An inscription of the 9th century AD engraved on the rock by the side of the cave temple indicates that the cave temple was definitely enlarged to its present form and was decorated with murals during the reign of Paṇḍya king Sirimara Sirivallabha, also called Avani Shakara, by the Jain Acharya Ilan Gaudaman from Madurai. So the Paṇḍyas have followed the Jainism and also the patronized Jainism, but in the Pallavas, early Pallavas, they patronized Jainism and then moved to the Saivism, or what we call Hindu tradition. The cave temple has paintings on the ceilings of the Garbhagriha, Ardha Mandapa, facade pillars, and under surface of the beams. If you could see that Chittanavasal temple or the Jain temple is one of the most interesting mural paintings of the South India. The paintings on the Garbhagriha depicts a canopy of a carpet pattern over the images. The subject matter of the geometrical pattern is the Dharma Chakra, in which pairs of Gaudama Ganadharas are grouped in places formed by meandering bands and superimposed by a pair of lines. The subject matter is Dharmobadesha of the Tirthankara. More importantly, the Ardha Mandapa depicts in a grand manner the scene of Samsarana, and this Samsarana is found full of lotuses, birds and animals, all enjoying the warmth of the cool water. On another face of the southern pillar are depiction of Paṇḍya king, the Siri Vallabha, or Sirimara Sirivallabha they call it, leading his queen to see the Madurai Acharya, the Ilan Gaudaman. So the Ilan Gaudaman is one of the famous Jain sages during his time. The aesthetic was painted in between the kings and the queen. The headgear of the king is elaborately drawn. Interestingly, this painting was vandalized immediately after its completion by a vandal who subscribed or who engraved his name in the characters of that time. It shows the vandalism is not new, and the vandalism is even happened in the time of 8th century and 9th century AD also. Today, this is a part of epigraphical record for us. On the undersurface of the beam, there is a brilliantly drawn figure of Hamsa with a flowing tail. So that way, this Paṇḍya and Pallava contribution to the mural paintings is enormous. This painting tradition has been continued during the time of Pallavas. That way, these mural paintings, starting from Middle Paleolithic times, we are having a long tradition in India. The concrete evidence for the existence of paintings could not be traced till 6th century AD because we don't have any Hindu temple before 6th century AD. That means a structural temple. The emergence of Chalukya or the Pallava and Paṇḍya dynasties in South India witnessed the royal patronage of mural paintings. The paintings observed in the rock-cut cave temple at Mantakapattu and in the structural temple at Kailasanath temple at Kanchipuram and Talagirishwara temple at Panamalai, and also during the time of Pallavas, and also the paintings at Chittanavasal near Pudukkottai is the marvelous pieces of Indian paintings. So the contemporary Paṇḍya ruler or the Pallava rulers extended their patronage in creating beautiful paintings in the rock-cut caves and also the structural temples. The excellent paintings witnessed in all these monuments show the continuity of the tradition over the centuries. Thank you.